On today's episode of Watch Chair Go, we fixed the wipers on the 96 Geo Tracker. What is going on, guys? I'm Watch Chair Go, and this just showed up in the mail. And the reason this showed up in the mail is, get this ripped open here. The wiper stalk is completely broken off of the tracker, which means there's no way to turn them on, and it's been raining for 6-7 days straight here in Wichita, so there's definitely no driving this with no way to turn on the wipers. I mean, this is completely missing. I don't even know how you break that off completely. So we're gonna get inside here, we're gonna take the steering wheel apart, and we're gonna replace the clock spring and all of the switches because it's a single giant assembly. Looks kind of cool, doesn't it? Here, flip the switches. Flip. There we go. They all do what they're supposed to do, I guess. It seems like a pretty standard setup. Also, I think I'm gonna have to do a little bit of cleaning on here before we install this because it's pretty nasty. So let's get inside, tear this thing apart, and get these guys working. So of course we have to figure out how to do this from scratch, and there's some little tabs right here. All right, it looks like we pop these tabs off. Man, we've got to get this car clean. I need to call Thomas and have him bring his detailing magic over here.
He'd probably love to do this, honestly.
Yeah, he'd love to clean this thing up. And usually there's like a Phillips screw in there. If there is, I can't reach it right now, but it does look like I need to go get whatever that is. And I also need to unhook the battery because of course the clock spring is the way that the car can transmit power through a turning system into the steering wheel's airbag. We're going to be unhooking all the airbag components and plugging them back in. So while I'm doing that, I don't want any power to the car. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the hood, pull the battery off, and then find a long screwdriver so I can get this shroud apart around the steering column. Battery disconnected. Now we can leave the key on and the steering wheel's unlocked, which means now I should be able to pull the airbag out along with the horns and everything like that. This is your triple square 8mm is what will get this apart. Hey! All right, so we're getting some progress made. Here is one horn connector, another horn connector. There's the Phillips screw that holds in that clip, and now we have lots of room to work with. And honestly, it's probably easy to get this thing apart at this point. You pull out on these wings very carefully. You gotta pull out quite a bit. And you can slide that up and slide the connector out, and your airbag is off. And now it looks like a 15 or something like that. That's what we're gonna grab to pull the steering wheel off. Getting out the big guns. I didn't even try anything else, because steering wheels are usually a big pain to get off, and I don't have a steering wheel puller. So one thing you want to do is make sure you know where your steering wheel alignment is. On this car, it is dead center right now. I'm going to hold it dead center while I pull it, and then pull straight back is my game plan once we get this out. So let's put the Ooga Dooga machine on here. There's our nut, no big deal. And now, this is spline too, so you have to line up every spline. There we go. I'm also gonna keep track of the clock spring. It was straight up and down on the old one. We'll make sure everything goes back just like that.
It's crazy how much dirt is inside of it.
I know, this is nasty. We're gonna have to clean everything as it goes back together. There it is. Okay, we found it. Cool. It's typically a Phillips on the shroud. Doesn't really matter what car you're working on.
This is just where we need to take it like to the car wash and just spray it out.
High pressure wash the interior?
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that. There it is. And the shroud is free. We should be able to replace our switch right now. And now we have to pull the lower dash, I just found out. So let's pull some more Phillips screws out. That's okay. Should make it easy to reach all the connectors that matter. It's just 4 Phillips screws. Super quick to get the lower dash off. I'm just glad the whole interior is still in this car. There's a lot of cars that you get and they're just destroyed. There are 5 screws, and one of them is hidden under the lower dash shroud there, panel. There's the last one. It's a machine screw. Don't lose it. All right, that's nasty. We're gonna do a lot of cleaning on this thing. Oh, this whole thing is nasty. We're gonna be cleaning. We're gonna just put all this in the sink inside and scrub it out. We just need to pull whatever screws. It looks like some Phillips screws are holding all this on, and disconnect a couple connectors, swap them out, put it all back together. But instead, we're gonna take a quick break and clean all of this. Even I'm probably gonna pull the shroud off the gauges real quick and get that cleaned up because it's gross, I gotta say. There's also 2 tins in here that hold this guy on, and we're gonna go ahead and remove it because all the connectors I have to access are all the way at the bottom, right underneath that. So you should be able to just pop these 2 tins pretty quickly and then lift this up and it should come right out. This is like a crumple zone so your knees don't get destroyed in an accident. And now we can access all of the connectors for this guy. So let's start removing that. So 3 Phillips screws hold on this switch and clock spring assembly, and weirdly they're loose. Oh, the screwdriver is magnetic. So cool. I never have magnetic screwdrivers around anymore. They always get demagnetized. Okay, this assembly should be free. All we have to do now is get all these wiring harnesses out of here. Big fat zip tie back here, but it's one of the ones that you can release. It's kind of holding everything onto the column. And then of course you'll need to disconnect this connector. And then there's gonna be one more huge electrical connector back there for all the lights, wipers, all that good stuff. And that one is buried deep inside, but I'm gonna find it here in a second. I went ahead and popped off our multifunction control panel here. And this connector is super easy to release after you get the airbag one off, that you have to pry those tabs sideways. This one you just squeeze and pull. So I think we're ready to reassemble as soon as I vacuum all of this out and kind of clean up the new wiring so it's nice and pretty. Okay, we went ahead and pulled the gauge cluster out. We're in here in the parts cleaning sink, and here's the needle from the gauge cluster. Of course, I already took the face off. It's just little push tabs. Obviously, they're still pretty flexible. Don't break them. Just be careful when you get those out. And this is one of the nastiest gauge clusters I've ever seen. It's absolutely beat. So I'm probably gonna use the vacuum with a soft bristle brush to kind of suck all of this junk out, get all the trash off the back of it, maybe get some of this trash off of it, and then we're gonna put the speedo needle back where it belongs because the speedo does work. I'm hoping it's set to 0, should be. And once the cluster is back together, we're gonna take some Meguiar's Plastic X and a brand new microfiber cloth and try to polish this because it's been beat over the years. People have destroyed this thing, and I'm gonna try to save it. And then once that's done, we'll take some Novus Stage 1 and try to protect it and keep anybody from messing it up in the future. That's the game plan. Let's get to it. Amberghini and I have been cleaning for a long time now. I'm dripping sweat. Here is our freshly cleaned gauge cluster face, and here is the gauge cluster, which looks 1,000 times better, almost brand new. And now all we have to do is get this speedo needle back in place. So I'm just gonna put it right here on the counter, aim it right at 0, and hope that we are correct. Here's our super clean gauge cluster face, at least as clean as we could get it. Try to make sure there's no extra dirt before we place it. And our super clean gauge cluster that it's going on to, look at that, the needle's back. It was at 0. Okay, it'll kind of rest at 0. Let's assemble this guy. Of course, it all just snaps back together once it's lined up. If I can line it up, that is. Okay, the bottom's in, now I have to get the top in. There we go. Back together it goes. 100 times nicer than it was a second ago. Look at that, look at that. So now we're gonna hook the cluster back up. It's this connector. Goes right there. Blue one in the middle. And the last one on the side right here. Now I can put it back in, but the speedometer cable is the hard part. So we got it past everything.
It's makes the whole car look so much nicer.
I know, the car looks new with this beautiful gauge cluster now. I just have to figure out how to get behind it and hook that guy up. I'm just gonna set it in there for now and then try to reach up from the back. That's where it'll go. And it is a nightmare. You have to kind of rotate the square back and forth until it lines up and then push as hard as you can. But I think I got it right there. And all the connectors are back. So the gauge cluster should work again. All right, we're gonna start putting all these screws back, put the cover back, and then get everything finished back to the point where we were when we started. Gauge bezel can go in now. Check that out, it's all clean. Literally, as this thing sits here, dirt falls out of it though. I blew the whole thing out with compressed air and there's still dirt in it. Screws going back in the bezel right now. Oh yeah. This thing is so much better. And I think all that's left now is actually putting in the part that we came to replace. So, let's line it up. Getting our machine screws back in, hold on the multifunction assembly. There's only 3 of these screws, so don't think you're missing one if you come up short of the 4th one. There's nothing in this hole. So that is wrapped. Now we can get all of our connectors hooked up, and do make sure you feed all of your wiring down through this little trough here. So just kind of work it all up in there and then push it all under the ignition cylinder. You can see the 2 connectors are here. I've got everything fed through. This is the multifunction connector. And it's done, ready to slide back up into the dash. And now the airbag connector. And it is done. We can push everything back up in here and reassemble the car. And don't forget to put your knee safety crumple zone thing back in. It hangs on 2 little tabs. And it all goes back together now. Look at this. So this you're gonna tilt up like that. Work it around there and then set it on the hazard just like that. And then the front, you've got to work around the ignition switch, which is kind of exciting. So you're gonna do a lot of wiggling until you get it all lined up. And then you can actually get the top snapped into position. Now we just have to snap everything back together. I think we're just about there. There's some old tabs that snap in, and that is back on. All that's left now is putting all these screws in. This machine screw that's fine thread, it goes at the back, and that should be right here. We can put the lower panel back on. So, snap all these guys in place, finish covering up everything, and put in your 4 short self-tapping screws that hold this guy on. Now we can finally put the steering wheel on. So exciting, all the covers are back in, all the screws are back in. And make sure you line up the tabs for your clock spring. That's it. I think we're good. We're ready to put the giant 17mm nut back on. Got it started. Get this guy on there. Didn't need a steering wheel puller. All right, I'm gonna grab my 1/2-inch ratchet and give that a little bit of a turn, and then we're ready to mount the airbag, and this job is wrapped. Okay, I have to keep unlocking the steering wheel every time I move it. But hey, at least the ignition is working better and cleaner, and I sprayed some white lithium grease in there to make sure the switch ran a little better. Here we go. Oh, you do want to remount the connector for your airbag harness. It goes right there. So I guess we'll start with that guy, or at least get it plugged in. Plugs in just like that. Snap it in, and we'll do the horn since we're here. There's our horn connector and our ground for the horn. You know what? Just put this on once it's all together. It's not that hard to do. Pull our airbag wire through. Man, I cleaned the airbag and the steering wheel, and it wasn't enough. It was not enough. There we go. She is in and ready for our 12.8mm here, or our triple square 8mm. Plugging in our airbag harness here. And this is the last screw in the whole build. Of course the socket falls off. That would make perfect sense. And that's it, it's all back together. Let's see what happens with the cluster. Lights, come on. Headlights, we got headlights?
You got one.
Oh, that's true. One of them burned out just now. It was working. All right, here comes the important part. Yeah! Interval, low, high. High seems just about as fast as low. Okay, let's
sped up a little.
Hey! And we had sprayers. That was empty, so I thought maybe there was a leak, but it works. Awesome. We fixed it. What? One of these says pull. Oh, pull toward, that's what I was doing. Just kidding.
Now Kansas ready.
It is Kansas ready, and next week it goes back to raining. So, can finally drive this bad boy in the rain, and we just get to work on some other projects. Thank you guys for watching. That is it for today. Please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time. I should have cleaned this while I was wasting time.